moving on to the next section where we'll cover operating systems. Starting with iOS, some things I think most of you would already be aware of, or people who have used iPhone or tablets a little bit, they would be aware of, or even just reading about it in general, about Apple in the media. They have a fairly simple user interface, easy to understand, with lots of the whole idea of gesture support is what Apple introduced, that you use gestures to get things done. You be it to move around applications or access applications which are running in the background, there are gestures for all of that. It's fairly consistent. While they have utilized the screen on the iPad, the interface was always very easy to understand if you were coming from an iPhone to the iPad, and there wasn't that much learning to do. So that's something which they have done very well. The next topic around multitasking, I think a lot has been said about it. There are camps who feel what Android does is better. There are camps which feel that what iOS does is better. I am firmly in the iOS camp, and not just because I am representing iOS here. My personal experience has been, I don't think there have been cases where I have felt an app is not available to me when I need it. And to have that feeling that the app is always available, the multitasking is happening as far as switching between apps is concerned, but at the same time knowing at the back of your mind that an app will not consume battery more than what I need it to be. That's a very good feeling, and I think that partly explains the very good battery performance which iPad has. So that's why I like to personally call it optimized multitasking. But again, as I said, I think at a certain level this is an emotional topic. I won't necessarily give a judgment on this. Again, browsing is another thing where Apple has been the trend setter for a while now. Not many people realize it, but the support they have for all kind of web constructs is far ahead, or at least compared to other mobile device platforms, including for things like HTML5, small things like only Apple lets you, has this construct that a web application can run just like an application with its own process. So they have this concept of a web app, which we can talk about in more detail, which pretty much gets an icon, it looks like an app, it works like an app, it's its own Safari instantiation, but it basically is end of the day a web app. It's a website which is running like an app. Right? So they have thought about those things, which kind of shows how progressive they have been about the browsing aspect. So those are things which more or less have been there for a while. Now a few things which they recently added with their latest 5.0 OS release. One of the important ones which was missing for a while was the ability to set up your iPad or iPhone without connecting it to a PC or Mac. They have finally added it. With that, they have also added the ability to do over-the-air upgrades. So with 5.0 they added that capability, and then they released 5.01, and it was very easy to upgrade to 5.01. A few other things which I think frankly they have copied from a lot of different sources, but are very welcome additions in terms of what an OS needs. The notification center, or the unified notification center, which you can kind of just which is accessible with one click. I don't have many notifications right now, but you access it with one click and it shows you all the notifications from all the apps in one place. Earlier, the only way to get notifications was like this. You used to get like periodic notifications, they would come and go, but there was no one place where you could access all your pending notifications. Upgrade notifications can also come like this. So it could be, let's say I have subscribed to some news notifications, or let's say my app for whatever reason sends me a notification that you need to upgrade. So, or it could be that I have a calendar event that I need to worry about. So all kind of things which either the OS thinks I need to take an action to about, or an app thinks that I will be interested in it, they can send a notification. And the earlier way was that you would get a notification and you will read it, it will go away. But now you have everything consolidated in one place, and you kind of hit your finger at the top and swipe it down, and the notification center comes up. This has been around in Android. I think, to be fair, Android probably does it a little better even now, but this has been a big improvement from iOS in the latest release.
So from browsing perspective, do you have a concept for a private browsing or something? Because I didn't see earlier version.
Private browsing, actually that's I think with iOS 5 they have added it. They have also added tabbed browsing with iOS 5, which was not there earlier. Which I think, yeah, I have mentioned that. But private browsing also you can do in Safari.
Private browsing. So I'm not sure about this one. The mobile Chrome has its. So I'll come to that in a minute. So what is on this is really not mobile Chrome. Ice Cream Sandwich, the newer operating version, has mobile Chrome, and that would have the complete range of capabilities. So this one I can quickly look up.
Couple of other things which they have added with the latest release is the concept of marking a website or document on the web as something that you would want to read later, and have it available across your devices. So I may mark something on my Mac as that I want to read it later, and when I am browsing through my iPad, I'll see it in Safari. I can read it. It would do some downloading and caching. So it makes it easier to kind of keep marking things you want to read, but read them later. Device to device messaging, something which has been there in BlackBerry for a while now. I don't use it personally that much, but whatever I have read, I think teens love the concept, or at least people who do a lot of SMS messages with their friends or whoever, they love the concept. The basic idea is you can send messages to people who have a similar device over internet without really needing to get charged by your carrier. A few other strong extras which have been around in iOS for a while. It always had very good controls for businesses, which in many ways we don't see it that much here in India, but when you go to US, Europe, and talk to people who want to roll out tablets across their enterprises, what you realize is a lot of security things, a lot of management things which enterprises or companies need to manage these devices in their enterprise environment. Apple has those and had those for a while now. Some user experience things or small utility things like how do you copy paste text, how do you take a capture screenshot, or how do you print a document. Again, iPad has been very well placed around all those concepts for a while now, and I think Android is trying to improve, but it's still iPad's advantage over there. A few other things, split keyboard we already talked about. Apple also has very good control for people who might be visually or hearing impaired. So you can turn on those settings, and then it becomes easier to navigate, to do things, to access different apps, and so on. So that way they have taken care of a segment which not too many other platforms are ready to take care of at this point.
Okay, moving to the Samsung tab on the operating system. So this has Android 3.1 Honeycomb version. So the biggest talked about or positive of Android operating system is its multitasking, PC style full multitasking capability that is there. So that's, but as Jatin mentioned, I think the jury is out there what is better. We talked about the customizable home screen, so I think that's one of the good things with widgets, the panoramic home screen with widgets and applications as well. The navigation is pretty streamlined. So this has the Android 3.1 with very minimal Samsung customizations. So this is what you would find in most Android tablets. It has what is called a system bar at the bottom. With the typical back, home buttons. There is settings here, which is also the notification center. So here any new applications which have notifications come here. You can view that, and that will take you to the applications. Any important settings can be customized here. For more, there is a settings screen. Also, to look at recently used applications, there is a section. So you can look at all recently used applications. Note that it's not necessarily those which are running now actively, but also recently used gets listed here. There is the omnipresent Google search bar at the top here, so it lets you easily do Google search. There is also voice search, but it's never usable, at least in our accent. I haven't really been successful in using it. Here at the top right is all the applications which are native, as well as all applications come here. All my applications become visible as soon as you click on the downloaded section. So it's a pretty usable user experience, I would say. One thing that also Android with Honeycomb has started doing is started giving applications a basic UI framework for standardization. So they have what is called the action bar at the top, which is tabbed, and it has a search bar which lets you search within the application. So I don't know how many of you can see there is like a search option. Important commands or functionality can be available here, and then for the lesser ones they have a menu, a drop down menu, by clicking on which you can see all the lesser used options of the application. So, and all applications, so this is market. I'll go to email, that also has a similar structure. So there is menu here, some of the commonly used commands at the top. So hopefully this will over time lead to some level of standardization across applications. The next good thing is we saw the multiple keyboard options that is there. So they have very good copy paste capability that they again introduced with Honeycomb, which lets you very easily do copy and paste from one place to another. One thing which is missing in the native Android that Samsung has added is the screenshot capability. So there are 4 icons here at the bottom left, and the 4th one is the screen capture. So I can just click on it and it will screen capture the entire screen and save it in your gallery. So that for later use. So that's one good thing that Samsung has added. So now this is available natively as well with Ice Cream Sandwich, but is missing in the Honeycomb version. The tablet also offers very good browsing capability. It's not the best in terms of HTML5 support. As I mentioned, this is not the mobile Chrome, it's an Android browser, but it does offer tabbed viewing capability. So I have multiple tabs that I can easily add here. This is a HTML5 site which looks pretty good. If I just go to an HTML5 test, it's much lesser than what is there. The score is much lesser than what you'll see for iPad 2. What is missing is important WebGL support and some multimedia support. So here is a site that Google has created. When I try to access that, it says that it's not available. So it asks me to download Google Chrome. So no, Ice Cream Sandwich has mobile Chrome. So that will see your desktop Chrome ported onto this. So yeah, that's the default. So that experience will get much better over a period of time. The other thing is that it has inbuilt Flash support. So it does let you use sites which have Flash also with in a pretty usable manner. Yeah, that's there in mobile Chrome as well. Can be seen on this. So even though I think now the use of Flash is going down over a period of time, at least for the time being, it's a good additions for use. Yeah, I think. Okay, and then the last thing from a usability which I wanted to point out is the universal the search bar and the URL bar. So I can just say Google and it takes me there. So you can just, instead of URL, I can just type and that will do a Google search and present you the results as well. Yeah, like Chrome. So it's a single one, not really 2 separate boxes, a single box, unified box for that. On the enterprise side, Android has historically been a laggard. Lot of business features were missing, but things are improving with Honeycomb, where Google has gone ahead and added support for good number of exchange active sync policies. We talked about device encryption already. There is also some level of VPN support. Some of this we'll touch up again, but they still need to improve, but they have started their journey on this path of providing features for extension.
Curious on the Flash support. How many of us have really used a site recently which is only on Flash? Is that a limitation? Do you guys feel it's a limitation?
Yeah. YouTube runs still on Flash. Most of the music sites that play music, like Gaana.com or other Indian sites, run on Flash. And just lately, YouTube started giving HTML5 support, which is an opt-in feature. It's not rolled out to everybody, and it doesn't work very well with a lot of
mostly like Raga,
browsers.
as you mentioned, yes,
Yeah.
that is a Flash one. And most of the people basically feel that it should have support HTML5. At least
The pressure is towards HTML5 compliance.
Yes.
Although we do have few sites in India which are.
But with applications specifically for those sites coming in, I don't really think applications. Well, there is a YouTube app for mobile devices. So I mean, at the same time, when you have YouTube app, people will tend to use that rather than using a web
It
application.
has a much better experience than you would have on this thing. So it all depends upon whether you want to go into a native app kind of a way of looking at things, or stay on the web and do a lot of things. So that's another piece of debate as to whether you want everything to be on the web through a browser, or you want everything to be app specific. So YouTube app can be downloaded. Now you can't start downloading apps for each and everything that you want to see. There might be cases in which the one-time thing that you're seeing, and some of the Flash performances might be just browser specific. You don't want to make an app for it. So the cases of being against Flash is, I don't know how Apple completely is against it. So that's been a
So
lot
is
of reasoning
Microsoft
behind it.
So is
So-
Microsoft like this?
So is like, yeah. They came up with the whole Silverlight, which is now dead. So now they shifted to HTML5. But I don't know about Flash and being actively against Flash.
So Flash, though, I think I don't know, unfortunate or not, but I think the end result of Apple's opposition to it is people are moving to HTML5, and recently even Adobe announced that they'll stop support for mobile devices for Flash. So I think whether good or bad, I don't know. The direction on that one clearly is that people will move to HTML5 or
As a
whatever
game
the
product,
alter.
it's good for the web.
Yeah.
And one of them is, as you mentioned, the battery killer, because as compared to your browsers on laptop or desktop, this battery is not lasting much. So even the Flash is more of a battery killer.
Yeah, that one I don't know. I'm just curious. Have people seen it?
You can forget about a smartphone. In the in your Mac, just in the Safari, enable Flash and then disable Flash, and you see the battery performance. You will
Interesting.
again I uninstall it. But if it's in Chrome, then it's fine. But with Safari, especially.
So maybe they haven't bothered providing good support for Safari in any case.